Hello there and welcome back to the channel. I hope today's going to be well. I'm Grand Admiral and today we're breaking down episode 2 of the book of Boba Fett, The Tribes of Tatooine. I'm sorry for the delay of this video, I've been very busy, so really my apologies. Anyway, there is a spoiler warning in place with all these videos, so if you haven't seen the episode, go do so now. Anyway, now that that's out of the way, let's get right into this. So we start off in Jabba's palace, I guess Boba's palace now. It's going to take a while for me to say Boba's palace, but we start off there, and the Nightwind Assassin's being interrogated. He doesn't speak and actually curses Boba, which is why he says a tutor. And Boba and Fennec decides to have a little bit of fun and send him into the Rancor pit. Now, we all know that the Rancor's been killed by Skywalker, and that was from this point in the timeline, which I guess would be pretty hard to identify where exactly we are, but I think just because we're past Mandalorian, so I guess this is about, I'd say 6-ish years from Return of the Jedi. So the Rancor's dead, and in all fairness, we don't know if Muchi's a new Rancor, because as we know from the Bad Batch, Bib Fortuna and Jabba did want another Rancor, but we don't know. Unfortunately, we don't see any Rancor in there, but we do see the exit door, which Luke escaped through after killing the Rancors, which is actually quite nice to see. And the Nightwind Assassin actually then speaks and says that the Mayor sent him. Now, when Boba and Fennec confront the Mayor, they're first greeted by the Major Domo and like the office assistant guy. You know, we got some words flying around, heated exchange, and Boba just barges in saying, "All of you shut up, my turn to go in." And the Mayor actually declines sending the assassin and actually ends up shooting down the assassin and saying, "It wasn't me because I have no reason to send any after you." This immediately made me wonder, actually, did the Major Domo inform the Mayor of Boba's zero tribute? And what I think is that actually the Mayor didn't send him. He's right, the Mayor did not send the assassin, but instead the Major Domo did because Boba gave no tribute to the Mayor. So it's entirely possible. Also, just to note that the Mayor is voiced by Robert Rodriguez, the showrunner of the Book of Boba Fett. Now, we then go to the Sanctuary, which we saw in episode 1, and we're told that the twins have laid claim to Jabba's throne, which is rivaling Boba. Now, this probably is going to be a major plot point throughout the rest of the, series, but the Hutts trying to take back the throne. And we go outside after hearing the drums, and we see the Hutts being carried on a litter. Now, first of all, I'd like to personally say we've not met these Hutts before, and these guys are new, and I'm also wondering how they survived the slaughter of the Hutt Council. Because that did happen. And I believe it was War of the Bounty Hunters, which we also saw the return of Crimson Dawn. Now, we also see a charter that the Hutts have said, yes, this is our claim. Unfortunately, I could not translate it because it was really out of focus. I'd love to know what was on that, and I'd really like to say what it is for you guys, but I really can't, and I'm sorry. Now, we also see, whilst they're on the litter, we can see an aqua bowl, and we'll see a cage, which would probably be the cage of the rodent that the male Hutt is using to dry himself from the sweat. Like, come on, man. Use a towel. Anyway, we can also see that the litter is quite sagged because of the weight of these two Hutts. Also, their positioning is just kind of slightly inappropriate, but And we can also see that the carriers, one of them is Zanikto, and they are really struggling under the weight of these two Hutts. Boba stands his ground and says, "You have no right, I killed Bib Fortuna," who, took over from Jabba. And then we see the appearance of Black Chrysanthemum, and that's the Wookiee. And you've probably heard this go fly over YouTube and the internet. And Chrysanthemum was a male Wookiee who was actually really exiled from Kashyyyk because of his aggressive nature, and he became a gladiator. Now, we also hear this because Boba and Chrysanthemum actually know each other. They worked together on a job for Vader. Now, Chrysanthemum, as I said, was a gladiator, and we hear that in the show, and we also hear how he killed some Trandoshans on Dur. Dur, I believe, is a new planet, or at least a new place, because this is the first I've heard of it. However, I may be wrong, and I'm sorry if I am. Anyway, we also see that Chrysanthemum has some really nice knuckle dusters, and, he looks like a really cool Wookiee. And also, it's quite interesting, because you see he has a scar on his forehead, and that's from the legendary Obi-Wan Kenobi himself, Mr. Hello There himself. He caused that scar, because Chrysanthemum attacked Owen Lars, and Kenobi stepped in to protect Lars from Chrysanthemum, pretty much giving Chrysanthemum that scar. Which actually makes me wonder, have they thrown Chrysanthemum in now to be able to then put him in the Book of Boba Fett? Not Book of Boba Fett, the Kenobi show. I mean, it's a good idea, and I'd like to see more of him. Be nice to. Be nice to see some of his combat prowess, and I'm sure he's going to show up throughout the rest of the season. Anyway, we then go to the flashbacks, and we start off with the Tusken training Boba, the female Tusken. She's training Boba, and we can see Boba's using a wooden gaffy stick, showing how he's moving up the ranks of the Tusken tribe. Now, they are then attacked by a train, which actually kind of makes the noise of a Great Dragon, and that would probably make sense, as as we know, the Great Dragon does actually scare the Tusken Raiders, and that Obi-Wan uses it in A New Hope to scare the Tusken Raiders from Luke. So it is entirely possible, and to me it makes sense. And it also then means that they can identify wherever the Tuskens are in the area, meaning that they can take them out when they shoot them. Now, we then see a few Tuskens fall, and we see them actually be burnt on a pyre. This is very similar to what the Jedi did, and a way of customs and a way of respecting the dead. Now, Boba then has an idea to be able to get back at this train and actually destroy it. And what he does is he goes to Tashi Station, and yes, that is Tashi Station. We can tell from the interior, which actually looks the same as the one in the deleted scenes. Now, we see a few things whilst in Tashi Station, and first of all, we see Lay's and Cammy, two of Luke's friends, and the other thing we see are the Nikto Raiders. We don't actually find out what the symbol means, but if you look on the back of the jacket, you can actually see it says Tatooine, then what looks to be this kind of skull-like symbol thing. In other words, I have no idea what that symbol is, but we do read that it says Tatooine, and that's from the translation from the Aurebesh. So I'm going to guess they're like a Tatooine kind of crime syndicate, biker gang group, but we still don't really know what their main symbol actually means. Anyway, once he destroys them from, Tashi, he goes and takes the bikes and takes them back to Tusken Raiders. I found this whole scene quite comic as they decide to start ripping them up, salvaging them for parts. And yeah, that makes sense. I guess you could use them. But Bob was like, don't do that because that's not why I brought them here. And instead uses them as, training methods to then get back to the train so they can ride along it. Now, all this training stuff was all quite funny. I think it was quite a comic part of the episode, and I really enjoyed it, in all fairness. Now, we then see once they're ready, and we hear the train again, and this time, as we can see, it's actually quite close to the Tusken settlement. Even though it's not super close, it is actually quite close in the surrounding vicinity. And Boba tells one of the children to go and have a signal ready to tell more Tuskens to fire, and I guess distract the train. Boba and his biker team, I guess, we'll just call them Tusken Bikers. Sounds way cooler than I thought it would. Anyway, they go and stop the train, and what they do is we get this whole lovely action sequence. Been talking too much. And they're able to take the train, and actually we see quite a lot of shots fired. We do see quite a few Tuskens die, and in this moment we actually do see Boba looking around his shoulder, and we see quite a, almost, we can see in his facial expression that he's actually quite upset by this. Eventually he's able to get onto the train, and is able to take out a few of the train people who are the Pikes. And we'll get more into that later. Now, the female Tusken that was training Boba eventually sees more Pikes, reinforcing the others in a point where Boba can't gain an upper hand, and the Pikes are slowly picking them off one by one. And she decides to crash her speeder right into the train, jump on, and then go to town on them. I mean, lovely action sequence. Same mistake. Anyway, once that happens, we then go into the cockpit of the train, and we see that really annoying conductor droid. This is a new droid, and I believe we haven't seen it before. Now, we can also see on the power, when he does divert some of the fuel, it says core to boost, and also that we can see Boba using his gaffy stick, his trainee gaffy stick, to stop the train from, I guess, continuing. I guess he just stops the train, really. And so he stops the train. This again shows another practicality of the gaffy stick, using it this time as a sort of crowbar or a lever. Now, when they take the train, we then see that the Pikes are unmasked, well, some of them, and we see, this is the first time live action, version of the Pikes without their helmets. And we can see that what they're actually doing is smuggling spice, and spice is the Star Wars version of drugs. We can also see that it shines, and we can also see that they have a water reserve built into the train. This could suggest a few things. A, water, because you need it to survive, and B, how they're a more aqueous species. Now, what's interesting having the addition of the Pikes is, as I keep saying, there is a possibility of Crimson Dawn. And as we know, the Pike Syndicate does work, in the Clone Wars, they worked for Crimson Dawn, and they did continue to go on, a part of Crimson Dawn. So it's very possible, it's very likely that we could see Kira return. Anyway, We then move on from there, and Boba is given a lizard that goes up his nose. I mean, man, this whole thing was messed up. Trust me, these flashbacks are really confusing. And he goes in what seems to be a dreamlike state. We see parts of Camino. We see another shot of, Geonosis. But I find what's really interesting is we see versions of him in and out of the armor. And he's just wandering the desert trying to find the tree. And remember, it's called the Dune Seas. It's called the Dune Sea. This was because Tatooine was originally a luscious green, and, it had a green planet, and it had its own lakes and oceans. And they eventually dried up due to planetary bombardment, I believe, throughout the planet's history. And I'll probably end up making a video on Tatooine and its history, and also the Twin Suns scorched the planet quite a bit. After, the aftermath from those battles caused a lot of damage to the planet, and caused us to go into a more desert-like state. Now, we can actually see, as he sees the tree, we see a few things. We see the red eyes, which when you look in the concept art, looked like it was going to be Jawas. This really does suggest, at the title, being the tribes of Tatooine, how it has the two tribes of Tatooine, the Tuskens and the Jawas. Another thing we see is that it looks like the sand is now an ocean. And that's quite interesting, as we've seen before, we've seen Boba and Camino. As we know, Camino is his home world, so having those ocean and those similar waves, how it looks like, really suggests how he's gone from here, or from Camino, all the way to now. Now, he then goes to the tree and is, I guess, caught up in the branches, what it seems like. And what kind of happens there is he's eventually able to snap one of the branches. What's interesting is we see new shots of him, the Sarlacc. And this really shows how this is his rebirth. This is Boba reborn and his second life. And how now he's a part of the Tuskens. And he snaps on the branches and it does a bit of a wave splash. Big wave splash when the branch breaks and snaps. Now, Boba then goes back to the Tuskens in the morning, and I guess it's the morning, it looks to be the morning, and the lizard goes out of his nose. I mean, that thing's messed up, But as really what it is a rite of passage, and it really shows how a Tusken really becomes a true part of the clan. We then see him being, clothed into his robes that we see in The Mandalorian. These are the same Tusken robes we see there, and we see how he really has risen through the ranks. I'm sorry, guys, for all the language mistakes. Anyway, we then see, some really nice, I think the whole scenery is really nice of how they do this, because it really shows how he's A, risen through the ranks, and B, how he's becoming a part of this. And he isn't given a mask, he's actually just given a hood, which really kind of shows that he wasn't born into this. I think he wasn't born into the clan, he was a stranger, a prisoner, captured, and then became a part of the clan by saving them. And really just showing off his true skills. Now, we then see him go over to what looks to be part of the original A New Hope kind of design for the Tusken Raiders. And it seems to be this, workshop. Now, he then makes his gaffy stick out of the wood. The wood is, carved. And I really like how it shows how the gaffy stick is an embodiment of the actual person, A lot of the time we say, weapons, they're only an embodiment of ourselves because we're using them. The weapon is only as so good as the person who uses it. And that's something I'd like to say when I'm fencing because, if you're using a foil, it's not that foil's doing all the work. You have to be, able to do the work. And that blade will only do what you want if you're able to cooperate and do what you need to do. Your blade is an embodiment of yourself. Now, I like how we see him make the gaffy stick, and then, we use some metal and we attach it on the end, and that goes, into the fire pit, and, really just helps to weld all the pieces together, and really adds to this really nice effect of the gaffy stick, and show how strong it really is, how we have the sharp end on the bottom, and then the massive club end on the top. He then goes back to the campfire, and it seems that the only way to then pass this is he has to get it checked out by the chief of the tribe, and then he participates in a ceremonial dance or a main ritual. The episode ends with that, and, I overall thought this was quite a fun episode, and I really did enjoy it. This was Star Wars at some of its purest moments, really showing how, who the Tuskens really are, showing Boba Fett's story, and also introducing some new characters, and this is really setting the scene for what's to come. I'm sorry, guys, how late this video is. I know we have Boba Fett episode 3 tomorrow, so my apologies there. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, my apologies for the lateness of the video. And yeah, guys, may the Force be with you. Have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. May the Force be with you.